Ladies and gentlemen, got ourselves another Apex card to break down. UFC Fight Night Bonfim versus Brown is coming up this Saturday, November 8th, 6 o'clock Central Times, kind of becoming the standard time for these fight nights. What used to be 9 o'clock, now 6 o'clock. So adjust accordingly. Looking at it, though, it's a pretty decent card. They threw together 6 fights on the main card that are fairly decent. A couple interesting matchups that I'm liking. And then some decent ones on the prelims as well. But per usual, we're going to spend the main thrust of our time looking at the main 6 matchups here, and then we'll breeze over those prelims, take a look at any of those interesting ones, ones that might be worth throwing some bets at. So, first up on the card here, on the main card, we have Christian Leroy Duncan versus Marco Tulio. Is how you say that? Christian Leroy Duncan, 30 years old. He's 12-2. 9 wins by KO. Obviously, most of his wins coming in that arena there. He's definitely favors the striking, but has a kickboxing background. He's not a bad grappler, but he's kind of like almost like the old Chuck Liddell like school of thought, where it's more like the sprawl and brawl. He's basically using his grappling to get back to his feet and then tee off on you. Speed over raw power, pretty physically gifted, like pretty explosive guy. Kind of a upright stance, so dudes are able to get in on his hips, but being as explosive and strong as he is, he seems to be able to hold him off, get the hips in there, hit the sprawl on him, or fight his way back to his feet. Gas tank, fight IQ, two of the things that I kind of worry about. He's so explosive. You got to think that as these fights draw on, he's not going to have the staying power that some of the less explosive guys do, but also a lot of these dudes aren't able to stay in with him that long. Hit Eric Anders with some spinning shit, which is always, of course, unpredictable, pretty hard to stick with. What are the odds on this one? Zoom in. Christian Leroy Duncan plus 160. Marco Tulio Silva minus 185. Okay. Hits with attention, not like crazy power, but he's very explosive, catches you pretty well. Through the dual elbows against Dennis Chululin, however you say it. Good clinch, good head positioning, knees in the clinch. Pretty volatile striker. Marco Tulio, though, going against a guy, 31 years old, so only a year difference between the two. 14-1, pretty comparable record. 10 wins by KO, 1 win by submission, 3 by decision, and he's also lost once by KO. Most recently coming off of 4 knockout wins in a row. The most recent one being a KO win over Tresean Gore back in April. He's pretty big for the division, big block of a dude. Throws extremely hard. I think he's kind of less on the speed, more on the power, whereas Christian Leroy Duncan seems to be just like blitzkrieg, lightning fast. Super hard low kick that was turning Tresean Gore sideways. Hands a bit low, chin up. Gore actually touched him at one point, clipped him, and I think even dropped him to one knee. Did seem to hurt him. Was throwing good spin kicks to the body. I don't remember if he was doing a whole lot of takedowns and shit. I don't think he was. Not a ton of combos. He was kind of single shots, big glancing blows, big kicks, things like that. But he was throwing a lot of them. Like the volume was there. Again, with the explosiveness that he fights with and throwing the power that he does, I don't know what the staying power is going to be like come round 3, round 4 or 5 if he ever gets in a title fight or a main event. Defensively, the thing I was noticing there, like I said already, he leaves his chin up a fair bit, leans back when he's trying to avoid blows, leans straight back. An accomplished grappler like Christian Leroy Duncan, I think, actually is probably going to be able to catch him. Especially for the, what was it? He was plus 160? Yeah, plus 160. Plus 160, I kind of think I lean that way. I think Christian Leroy Duncan's going to have a speed advantage, which I generally lean towards the faster guy, especially when he has the experience in the striking that Christian Leroy Duncan does, CLD does. Now, Marco Tulio's no punk, crazy power. Really, I think actually probably the bet here is to play the under in this fight. Let's see, under 2.5 plus 105. I'd take it. I would definitely take it. These boys are going to match up well, and I think that's going to be an explosive fight. Moving on, though, bantamweight bout. We have Ricky Simon versus Raoni Barcelos. Real fun matchup as well. I like Ricky Simon quite a bit. I can't even tell you how many fights of his we've seen now. Dude's been around for a hot minute. 33 years old, though, 22-6. 7 wins by KO, 4 by sub, 11 by decision. So fairly well-rounded guy. Most of his wins coming by decision, most going to the distance. Been KO'd twice, lost once by sub, 3 times by decision. Stylistically, he's a kind of a short fire hydrant build, the little squat, broad, explosive wrestler type of build. Real good overhands. I think because he's a shorter fighter, he's used to having to close the distance and throw over the top of people's guards, and has developed a pretty good overhand as a result of that. Switches stance a little bit, but he's mainly orthodox. Like I said, the crouch stance, which helps him defend takedowns as well. He's got a good scramble. Wades in, closes the distance, shoots to the body occasionally. Susceptible to the lead lower kicks, like the calf kicks and stuff. He was getting chewed up. Loke Dog, Vinicius Oliveira, was chewing him up quite a bit there. Not a ton of head movement. Shells up a little bit defensively, moves back or leans out of the way, but does have his decent chin, decent gas tank. We like ourselves some Ricky Simón. Fun fighter. Very explosive, very strong, good grappler with some developing striking. Jorge Barcelos, though, 38 years old, so 5-year age advantage for Mr. Simón. 20-5, 8 wins by KO, 3 by sub, 9 by decision. Lost once by KO, once by sub, and 3 times by decision. So pretty similar records there and outcomes between these two guys. Orthodox, longer stance as well. Pretty light, pretty springy on his feet, though, where Simón sometimes will plant to throw the bigger shots and wade in. Not the greatest wrestling, but it's not like terrible. I think he kind of muscles some of the takedowns and stuff, gets in on the hips, body locks, gets takedown, shit like that. Good at mixing it up, faking low and throwing high after he does a few shots. Was it like a little bit flaily on the striking after a little bit? He was kind of slapping some of the shots out there. Not to say that Ricky Simón's this super high-level striker. It was just something we noticed, some tendencies in Barcelos' game. Barcelos. Defensively, shells up, rolls with it. Pretty blatant cheats against Quinones that, we got to bring that up, so you got to watch out for that. Maybe some dirty fighting. And, of course, now you got to watch out for the eye fucking gouges. It seems to be a growing trend in the sport. Fights a bit short in his striking. Ricky Simón likes to fight somewhat up close, though, so I don't know necessarily that will be a problem. Good lead hook from old Barcelos. It's a fun matchup. Let's pouch out. I lean towards Simón. He's got the age advantage. He's explosive, has the big overhands. Speed-wise, I think these two are going to be pretty close. I would say maybe play the over if you want to round. Over 2.5. Maybe take them both to distance if you can get plus money on it and hedge it out. But I think Ricky Simón's going to take this one. I just think the younger, probably the stronger, more explosive fighter. Good at mixing it up, pretty fast. Nasty guillotine as well. Can't go without mentioning that. Ricky Simón has a really nasty guillotine. If I remember right, that's what he got Merab with. Had him locked up. Merab was flailing like a fish, and then the bell rang, but they still counted him out. It was pretty wild. So, fun scrap. We're going Simón. Next up, lightweight bout, Chris Padilla versus Ismael Bonfim, the first Bonfim brother fighting on the card. Chris Padilla, 30 years old, 16-6. Did we skip? I think my notes are out of order compared. Yeah, they are. Okay. Well, 16-6, 8 wins by KO, 5 by sub, 3 by decision. So favors the KOs, but he's fairly well-rounded. Lost once by KO, twice by sub, 3 times by decision. Put together quite a few wins here, 6 wins in a row, I believe, if my counting's right. Most recently, a split decision over Jai Herbert, and then a TKO win over Zhu Rong, which was a nasty step-in elbow that he landed that just, closed his whole eye up, just a giant lump, and the doctor ended up stepping in and stopping it to save dude's freaking eyeball. Orthodox, high guard, his body's a bit exposed, old Taco Padillas. Decent low kicks, like to stomp a little bit, like a stabbing front kick. Like I said, the step in the elbow, which was really nice. Did a couple of those, but then he landed that really nasty one against Rongzhu. Fairly okay jab. I actually wish he'd use it a little bit more. Right hand over the top. Not the greatest finishing power. Decent, but it's just not, it's not like knocking you dead power or anything like that. Kind of average. Fairly good chin. He does seem to be pretty durable. Like you can see here, only 1 KO stoppage. Maybe relies a little bit too much on that. Gets touched a little bit more than I would like with that high guard, getting touched to the body, and then gets touched to the chin actually a fair bit as well. Does fairly okay in the clinch. Was willing to accept some body shots against Rongzhu, land a pretty nasty knee to the body a couple times. Going against the guy here, though, in Bonfim, the lesser of the two Bonfim brothers, but still a pretty talented fighter. He's 29 years old, 20-5 overall. 9 wins by KO, 4 by sub, 7 by decision. Been KO'd once and lost 4 times by submission. Another squat, kind of explosive guy, not dissimilar to Ricky Simone. Orthodox, pretty long stance as well, which Vince Pichel chewed up the low kick. A little bit of a wide guard, so dudes were also popping him down the middle some with a quick jab, chin up. One of the things I noticed is he does have a ton of power, but there's also a lot of wind-up in his striking. Like, he's really opening up to throw these big explosive shots. Dudes with real technical, crisp, quick striking will definitely take advantage of that. Not the most technically sound guy. He was getting on the body lock, doing a lot of lifts and slams, shit like that. But his jiu-jitsu, like his submission game, I think he's one of these dudes with such a squeeze that he doesn't even necessarily need to get in a perfect position. If he gets even close to a submission, he might lock that thing up on you and squeeze the shit out of it and crush you with like an arm triangle or something like that. And then, of course, the explosive striking, the one benefit, I guess, of the big wind-up is the power that comes with it. If you do land, you're going to put a dude away. I actually kind of leaned a little bit towards Padilla here. What's the odds? I'm sure he's a pretty big underdog. Yeah, plus 180. I'd go Padilla. I think he's actually the cleaner striker of the two. He doesn't throw the big winding shots like Bonfim does. Bonfim also, being as close as he is, fades quite a bit. So I think Padilla has a little bit more staying power, and as the fight goes on, could potentially take over. So you could also live bet this one I'm sure the line's going to swing maybe even more in favor of Bonfim early. So take advantage of that, place a little bit on Padilla, and then ride it out. See if he comes back. I think that's the move. Next up, another really fun matchup, in my opinion. A welterweight bout. We have the king of kung fu, Muslim Salikhov, versus Urosh Medic. How do you say it? Muslim Salikhov. Dude has been around for a hot minute. 41 years old, 22-5. 15 wins by knockout, 2 wins by sub, 5 by decision. Lost 2 times by KO, 2 times by sub, once by decision. So fairly well-rounded in his losses. Obviously favors the striking in his wins. King of Kung Fu, you might guess that. Orthodox, hands low a little bit at times, but he's very slick with the head movement. He's got a lot of like savvy, experienced tricks and shit like that. A lot of ring craft and all this other bullshit that he pulls out all these tricks up his sleeve. Good low kick, tune up the calf. Good kicks to the body. Throws the occasional wheel kick upstairs, mixes it up real well on you. I think he has like 4 or 5 spinning like wheel kick KOs now. Good feints, likes to circle out and reset. Again, that kind of, I think, speaks to his experience and his composure. He's not afraid to like back out and reset if things aren't going well for him, which also I think kind of speaks to the hands being low. He's not afraid to get out of range, reset, and re-engage in some kind of exchange that favors his game a little bit more. Chin-wise, I think maybe that's what's maybe going to start to go for him. The mileage, the wear and tear, he's getting cracked, and he seems to be getting stunned a little bit, so I worry that is maybe going to be what gives away the fight for him, because aside from that, I think it's a pretty winnable fight. Uroš Medic, though, is a aggressive striker with decent power. He's 11-3, 32 years old, so 9 years age advantage for him. If I said 9 wins by KO, 2 by sub, the aggressive nature that he like approaches his last couple fights with is charging forward, getting in there and mixing it up, I think is maybe going to take advantage of the mileage that Muslim Salikhov has on him, of that potentially compromised chin. So while I would normally pick the more experienced technical guy, I kind of think Uroš is going to get it done here. But again, maybe you could just play it safe and go with the under. What are the odds? Muslim Salikhov plus 155. Man, I take Uroš. He's under the minus 200 range, which is usually around my cutoff, minus 200, minus 220. So take the money line. Could take him by KO, or you could take the under. I think it's going to be a fun matchup either way. 2 relatively aggressive strikers with decent power who land pretty well. Both of them have, I don't want to say questionable chins, both of them get hurt. So should be a fun matchup, exciting fight. I'm going to have to go with the younger guy, though. 9 years is a hell of a difference, especially in those kind of really like consequential years. It's like anything beyond 35. It's like it counts at 1.25 speed. The years between 20 and 30. There's not like a huge age difference when I'm looking at guys there. It's like, all right, who has the better record and style matchup, not who's older. But when it starts getting over 35 and then the other dude is barely over 30, it's like, this probably isn't going to go great for him. Next up, co-main event of the evening, a flyweight bout between Matt Schnell and Joseph Morales. Again, a fun matchup. This is actually a pretty good fight night, in my opinion, after we're coming off one that was a little bit weaker. We have Matt, give him hell, Schnell. He is, how old is old Matt Schnell? 35 years old, 17-9. 2 wins by KO, 9 by sub, 5 by decision, 1 no contest, something I guess. Lost 5 times by KO, 3 times by submission, and once by decision. So not the most durable guy on planet Earth, unfortunately. Coming off a decision win over Jimmy Flick, which broke a little bit of a losing streak for him. 3 in a row, 3 finishes. Stylistically, he's kind of got a longer stance, orthodox, somewhat planted, flat foot, almost like a karate kind of stance at times with like maybe the L stance, a little bit of the forward foot facing towards the guy, back foot bladed. Hands a little bit low. He does get tagged and then gets drawn into these like brawl type scenarios. He's not afraid to do a little bit of phone booth fighting. Leans back defensively and gets caught on the chin. Also gets caught a little bit over the top. He was kind of like leaning and throwing, and then the dude would come over the top and catch him quite a bit in his last fight. Wrestling, I shot a little bit from pretty far outside, and it like didn't disguise it or anything. So when you're shooting from that far away and you're not doing anything to set it up, just about anybody's gonna be able to sprawl on you. So I don't know that speaks to his wrestling ability very highly, at least. So we'll see. I think that was against Cody Durden, who is also like a pretty decent wrestler. So he could have even done that one pretty well and still gotten stuffed. But you'd like to see him at least try and like set the thing up with some jabs or something. But going against the guy, Joseph Morales here, 13-2, 31 years old, 2 wins by KO, 7 by sub, 4 by decision. So 2 pretty accomplished grapplers, 2 guys who like to snatch up some submissions. So most recently coming off a triangle choke submission win over Alibi Adiris, however you say it, in August. Orthodox fighter as well, pretty aggressive, real like forward pressure heavy, just like dogged in his pursuit, standing in your face pretty much constantly. Classic, kind of a normal stance. His legs not too far out there to get chewed up with like a calf kick or like a lower thigh kick or anything. Excuse me. Decent clinch work. Strong, fairly hard to control. Landed a nasty knee against this Alibi guy, Adiris. Pulled his head down like a collar tie, clinch, like the tie collar, pulled him, or the plum or whatever the hell. Yanked him down to a knee. Pretty solid takedowns as well. One of the things I noticed was he was very good at staying attached to the guy the entire time. Had a body lock. Very wet blanket style of grappling, which I guess he's like a wrestling coach and a jiu-jitsu coach. So you can tell this guy's very good, pretty technical. Was good at like chaining the offensive threats as well. If I remember right, he had like a Kimura that he threw into like a damn guillotine or something, and then that's maybe when he threw up the triangle choke or something on this guy. Like he chained multiple attacks in his last fight before he actually locked that up. Had the back for quite a while. Not quite like a Aljamain Sterling, but not dissimilar to it either. That wet blanket style of just really, really weighing heavy on a guy and kind of dragging him into the deep water. All the cliche terms for weighing on a dude and dragging him out. Man, given the records and everything, kind of the recent performances, that Matt Schnell was breaking a losing streak, and Joseph Morales has been on a bit of a tear and kind of has some momentum going. I think this minus 270 line, I agree that he should win. The minus 270 line makes it that you don't really necessarily want to touch it. I would say maybe inside the distance. Could catch a submission or something like that. Schnell, if I remember right, he shot that takedown. I think that failed takedown was what Cody Durden actually snatched him up with. It was like that weird front choke. Not quite. I mean, I guess it was kind of like a ninja choke or something, but it was a front like RNC style just locked it up, and he started trying to like gator roll out of it, and Durden was able to chase him down and keep it locked up and get him a tap. So I'm thinking Morales is going to lock something up on him, potentially get the sub finish, add to that record. At minus 270, you're going to have to find some kind of prop or just leave it alone. So, moving on, we have the main event of the evening, welterweight bout. Another fun matchup, in my opinion. We have Gabriel Bonfim versus the rude boy, Randy Brown. Gabriel Bonfim, if I could say it right, 28 years old, 18-1, 3 wins by KO, 13 wins by submission, 2 wins by decision, 1 KO loss to his name. Most recently coming off a split decision win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, where I don't know, it's kind of a lackluster performance in my opinion. He was getting a lot of takedowns, but not really doing a whole lot with them. Generally speaking, he's a pretty big welterweight, clearly very strong, orthodox, somewhat upright stance. So if dude's actually had good wrestling, I think he'd be fairly easy to get maybe some takedowns on. Decent jab, which he would use a little bit more. Lead low kick, which not a ton of power. He kind of like slaps it out there to set up other stuff, but he's fairly good at doing that. Like I mentioned, clearly very strong, good getting it on the hips, picking up dudes, going for like big, high-energy slams, much like his brother, Ismael. But very taxing. This guy, I don't think, has a very good gas tank, again, like his brother. So it's something to keep an eye on, especially as this fight progresses against a dude who does have a fairly good gas tank. And the old rude boy, Randy Brown. We have 35 years old, rude boy. Randy Brown from Jamaica, 20-6. Fighting out of New York, though, I believe. I feel like he's from New York. Now I'm second-guessing it. But either way, coming off a KO win over Nicholas Dalby, that was nice. A pretty big right hook from if I remember it correctly. Athletic, tall, lanky build. Kind of a, I don't know, not like super high-power striker. He kind of like whips it in there like a cat. He's kind of like pawing at you, just batting away at you, chipping away until he lands something clean and sleeps your ass. Front stance, lead leg out there a little bit. Jabs you up. Pretty high volume. Good front kick. Likes to fake it as well. Get you biting on that and then piece you up with something. The outstretched hands sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired. You get some eye pokes going, shit like that. So it's something to watch out for. A little susceptible to the low kick. Not the most spectacular chin. He's been caught a few times and hurt. Grappling's okay. He's got okay defense to like submissions and stuff, but he does get taken down. The somewhat narrow stance, I think dudes are able to get around his hips fairly well and get like the double. I think Gabriel Bonfim's going to be able to get him down, unfortunately, fairly easily, given he was able to get Wonderboy down, who, in my opinion, has really good takedown defense. Given his chin, his submission defense isn't like super, super high level. I think I got to go with Gabriel Bonfim. I think he's going to be a little too much for the rude boy here. This fight here is a matter of, does Gabriel Bonfim get the finish early, or does the fight drag on and does rude boy turn it around? So what I would do here is probably live bet it. I would do Gabriel Bonfim, maybe money line, maybe submission inside the distance, something like that. Do a little sprinkle on him, and then watch this fight. And after about round 3, late round 2, early round 3, take a good hard look at old Bonfim and see if he's starting to fade, and if the momentum is starting to move back in favor of the old rude boy, maybe you sprinkle a little bit on him. Those odds would probably be pretty inflated by that point. So that's what I would do, but unfortunately, I think Bonfim is more than likely going to be a little too much for the rude boy early. He's kind of a monster. Randy Brown's been taken down a fair bit in his old career, and has he been subbed? Yeah, I've been subbed twice. We'll go Bonfim. So, that is it. UFC Fight Night, Bonfim versus Brown. Pretty decent card. Oh, you know what? Let's look at the prelims here. Jackson McVeigh versus Robert Valentin. Like ourselves some Jackson McVeigh. This is a St. Charles MMA guy, so we're going to go with the Moose on that one, obviously. I'm biased as shit in that one. Big bastard, though. Decent sub game, decent striking. Gets caught a little bit, so we'd like to see maybe some striking defense develop with him. Then we have Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos. Fun scrap there. I probably lean towards Miles Johns in that. Dude's very explosive, decent wrestler, just fades like crazy. So we'll see on that one. If it goes late, you could see that one turn around, honestly. Tesha Pennington versus Denise Gomes. Pennington, mean, just a solid fighter, well-rounded, decent grappling, pretty strong, clearly, pretty powerful. I would say she might take old Gomes down and hold her down, but I don't know a ton about Denise, so leave that one alone. Just watch it. Josh Hokett versus Max Jimenez. Don't know, don't care. Maida Bueno Silva, Chitara. We like her submission game. I don't know a ton about Cavalcanti. Maida doesn't have a ton of striking to speak of. And honestly, the grappling isn't like super, super clean. I just think she has a good squeeze and is able to snatch some stuff up occasionally and is pretty dogged in the pursuit. Adrian Yanez versus Christian Quinones. That's a real fun matchup there. Yanez, good boxing, good power. Kind of has been a little bit derailed. Maybe has not lived up quite to the potential, the hype at least maybe surrounding his name. So would like to see him really start putting a couple together, some big dominant performances, some standout performances, and get some momentum back in his court in his favor and start making a run at the title again. And then we have Haider Emil versus Jamal Emmers. Haider coming off a pretty nasty loss, if I recall correctly. Let's see here. I think it was a nasty stoppage. Yeah, first round, 26 seconds. Got absolutely nuked going against Jamal Emmers. Fun fighter, though. Very aggressive, very pressure heavy. Kind of reminds me of like a Trevor Peak or a Nate the Train Landwehr, something like that. Going against another guy who's pretty explosive in his striking, Jamal Emmers. So, again, fun matchup. But, yeah, that is it. Fight night, Bonfim versus Brown is in the bag. Hopefully we'll make some money. We'll put our bets out on Friday. Hopefully we'll have some this time. Last card, we just kind of sat out and enjoyed it, which ended up being a bit of a shit show of a card. So maybe it was a good thing that we did sit out. So let me like, comment, follow, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Let me know what you think of these fights. If you got any matchups or any bets that you're going to be playing. And we will see you guys next card. Peace out.